Good morning, everybody. It's good to be with you. And you know, there's icing and there's the cake, right? You know, you ever hear that icing? You can get your cake and eat it too, or your icing. Anyways, there are things in marketing that are the icing on the cake. What I mean by that is your logo. I don't like to make brochures anymore. I think brochures are a waste of time, personally. Because here's what happens with a brochure. You make a brochure, and you got it all set, and there's a message from the principal in the brochure, and a year goes by, and that principal takes a call to Thunderbird Academy, for lack of a better place, and your brochure is, you got to update it again. So I'm not big on brochures, but logos are very, very good to have so you can brand your school, and a tagline is good. When the school I came from was Tri-City Christian Academy and Carolina Conference, and it was abbreviated as TCA. So when we did our mission statement for the school, we tried to use that TCA, so it'd be easy for the kids to remember. So our tagline that tied to our mission statement, which is all part of our marketing, was think for the T, commit for the C, and act for the A. And then we tied that to the mission statement because our mission statement, this isn't exactly what it is, but this is how we got the kids to learn it, right? So we would tell the kids to think carefully and prayerfully, commit your life to Jesus, and act unselfishly to a dying world. Now that's a mission statement any kid can remember, right? Especially when you go over it again and again and again. That wasn't exactly the mission statement, but that was the concept of the mission statement. So those things are the icing. I just want you to know that's the icing on the cake. Those are things you do. You know, I was there for 5 years before we did that. So that wasn't where we started, right? They had a logo already. I didn't care for it, but they did have a logo. But we added the tagline. By the way, the tagline went all over the school. Think, Commit, Act was everywhere. It was in the hallway. We had banners in the parking lot and on the lights. It was think, commit, act. It was everywhere. It was on the minutes from the board meeting. It was on the handbook. It was everywhere. So everybody knew think, commit, act. That's what we're about, think, commit, act. And by the way, not just for marketing, but that think, commit, act then gives a focus to your administration, your board, and your administration when you're making decisions. So if you got something that's going on and a proposal before your board and they're wanting to do X, Y, or Z, whatever it is, well, we'd always go back to that. Wait a minute, is this helping the kids to think carefully and prayerfully? Is this helping the kids to commit to Jesus? Is this helping the kids to act unselfishly to a dying world? So that also became a decision-making point for us as well. But again, that's the icing on the cake. You know, if you're not telling the story of your school, somebody else is. And that story that they're telling may not be a positive story or an accurate story. It might be full of half-truth, right? So you've got to tell the story of your school. You've got to be the one out front making sure that you're telling that story. So you can tell your story digitally, which I prefer this over brochures, and so you have social media accounts, that parents visit, and I would not suggest that you as the teacher or the administrator be the one who keeps up those social media accounts 100%, because you're not going to have that much time. So we always had a parent or somebody from the board who was tech savvy that was our social media presence that would we had a gentleman who did our YouTube channel, and he would take videos from things that we did, the Christmas program or whatever, gymnastics home show, and he would put that up on the social media on YouTube. And then we had a lady who was a parent of one of our students, and she did the social media. She was real good at posting pictures and every so often, hey, here's what's happening. And then beyond that, have a consistent school newsletter you kind of heard about, but something that goes out once a week to all your constituents. And what we did was we sent it to the pastors, and the pastors sent it out to their church. We had 5 constituent churches. So we sent it to the pastors then sent it out to the church members. So we used the thing, I think it was called MailChimp. I think that's what it was called. I don't know if you've seen that. But that's really good for creating mail lists and getting that pushing that information out. And then make sure that your website is updated and is current with information. And again, either that's you yourself as a teacher administrator, or if you have people in the community at the church that can help you with that and do that for you. And there's places, here's an example, Adventist Schools Connect, where you can post stuff for free. So then you need to tell your story in person, not just digitally, but you need to tell you're telling the story everywhere you go and everything that you do, right? So you have to, I don't know how else to stress this, you must get involved in your church somehow. A negative story will pop up, it's going to happen, because, you try to be professional and polite to people, and you tell them the truth, that I'm sorry your 6th grade child that you thought was an angel got a D- in math class, and they want to sue you. That happened to me. I wasn't the teacher. They wanted me to change the grade, and I said, look, you don't know how, and I was very professional, I was very polite. I said, look, I'm sorry. You don't know how this thing works. If you want the grade change, you got to go through the teacher. I'm not going to override a teacher's grade. I wasn't in the classroom. I wasn't there every day. So meet with the teacher. If you can't work it out that way, I'm happy to meet with you after. And then if we still don't agree, then take it to the board. I gave her the whole process, and nope, she came and slapped down a lawsuit. And wanted $25,000. So she lost. But anyways, I'm just saying that you have to get involved with your church, because those things will happen. And you know what she's telling all the church members, right? But if you're involved at the church and the church knows you, when they hear those stories, they're like, wait a minute. I know Peter, and that doesn't sound like something Peter would do, right? They need to say that about you. I know Armando. That doesn't sound like something Armando would do, right? So you've got to getting involved in your church. You're marketing your school by getting involved with your constituent church, and they will love you for it, by the way. Have your students participate in church. Get them up front. They will be telling the story as long as they're doing a good job, so that takes a little practice, right? But get them up front. People love to see the kids up front. Tell a good children's story. There's just simple ways that you can be a part of the program. You don't have to do the sermon. You don't have to always be up there. But maybe once a semester, maybe once, get up front and be visible and tell a good children's story where the parents sitting out there watching say, hey, you know what? I'd like that person to be my kid's teacher. Right? You're marketing the school through this. And then community involvement. Get involved somehow in your community. Now this one you don't always think about, but it's very true. You are telling the story of your school by the way that you act and react. Right? How do you respond to issues? Sometimes I've had this, maybe nobody else has this problem. But sometimes something happens with a student or with a parent, and I am through the roof. How could they be so... Okay? That's not the time to send an email, right? That's not the time to call them on the phone. Take a few minutes, calm down before you reach out to them, right? And because you want to make sure that you're responding to the issue and not letting your personal feelings get in the way, and it's very easy to do that. But in that process, you're marketing your school. And so not just the administrators, but all the teachers are too, your staff. How do they treat the students? Your students are going to talk. Your students are going to go back to their parents. They're going to go back to their other friends who maybe are not in your school yet, and they're going to talk. So we've got to make sure that our staff are treating our students in a way that nurtures them and makes them feel loved. When I was in North Carolina, we had a teacher come in, and he was very sarcastic. And I think the sarcasm has no place in your classroom. with students, because some of the students get it, right? Some of the students get the sarcasm, they're ha, but there'll be a handful of kids there that'll be like, I'll give you an example. I was walking by the classroom, and this gentleman who was teaching, and we had to change a policy. I don't even remember what it was about, whatever the policy was. And one of the kids raised their hand and say, you know, Mr. So-and-so, why did they change that policy? And you know what he said? He was trying to be sarcastic. He said to the students, because the staff don't like you. Now, most of the kids there kind of chuckled, but you know, there was a handful of kids there that were probably sitting there going, you know, I always felt that way. I always felt like the staff didn't like me. I guess they don't like me. So when I walked by and heard that, I stepped in the classroom and said, excuse me, let me tell you why we changed that policy. It's not because we don't like you. So how you treat the students comes back to your school face, to the story that's being told about your school. And how do you answer the phone, you know? We had a student worker. She was the best at answering the phone, and this is when we were at Indiana Academy, and she would say, it's a beautiful day at Indiana Academy. How can I help you? Right? Instead of, hello? So be professional. Think about it. You're telling a story when you answer the phone. Does your staff look grumpy? I mean, really, because a lot of times when a parent comes into the classroom and to pick their child up or whatever, they're going to be looking at the staff and how the staff relate to the kids. They just are. And if you're starting to read Marzano's The Art and Science of Teaching, he refers to this part of the classroom as context. And the context in the classroom matters, and kids need to know that their teachers care about them. It goes a long ways when they feel that way. All right, now how to tell your story in the way your facilities look. Now your facilities don't have to be brand new. But when you look around your facilities, are the bushes trimmed? Or are they out of control, growing, in front of the building? Or do the bathrooms smell clean? These are just little things, right? But you're marketing your school. Are the classrooms neat and orderly? We had, just speaking of smell in classrooms, I won't tell you what school this was at. It was a long time ago, far, far away. And we had a teacher who, she had dogs at home. I guess she had a lot of dogs. But I'm not kidding you. Somehow when you walked into her classroom, there was like a wall that hit you, and it smelled like wet dogs. And the kids just didn't look forward to being promoted to that grade because we got to be in that classroom. And so these things matter, right? These things matter, simple things. Sometimes we think marketing's got to be rocket science, but if we look around, we find out it's really not. There's some simple things that we can do. Is the entryway attractive when you walk in the building? Is the lawn mowed? These are the kind of things. What's on the walls when you walk in the hallways of your school? Are you showing your students work? Parents love to see that when they walk through. You're marketing your school when they can walk through and look on the walls and say, oh, look at what they're doing, and I didn't know they were doing that. That's impressive. You're marketing your school. How to tell your story by your finances. Does your school overspend every month? If it does, that's going to get back to your constituents. They're going to look at the school as being irresponsible. Right? Now, there are years when this happens, right? It should not be every year. And so staying in a budget, you're marketing your school to your constituents. Do you listen to your board treasurer when they have an idea? We had a teacher in the Carolina Conference when I was down there at Fletcher Academy. And the board, the treasurer, everybody was telling this principal that they could not afford a full-time music teacher. And she would not listen. She did not want to do that. But you got to listen. This relationship that we're in with our constituent church is a relationship of give and take, right? Mm-hmm. It's a relationship that says, you know what, here's what we need, but where are you guys at? How can we work together to come to that place? And you're marketing your school to your board, who will then go and talk to your church members. Are your reports legible? when you're presenting something at the board? Can they be seen? Are there errors that could have been easily fixed? Sometimes one of my weaknesses is I'll forget to change the date. It's something we used last year, and so the date at the top is the wrong year. You got to make sure you go through and correct all those things, not only to the board, but what you send out to your parents in your communication. And one of the most effective ways to tell your story, by the way, is, and we've kind of been touching on it, you can't buy it. There's nothing you can do that replaces word of mouth. As the people are talking about those quiet conversations, and some of them not so quiet, that happen in the foyer at church and after the board meeting, and so that word of mouth is your most powerful marketing tool. And the things that we've talked about, those are the things that affect what the people are, the story the people are talking about for your school. The last thing I want to mention that we always try to do, by the way, these are my 2 daughters. And they're a little older than that now, but this was our gymnastics home show at Tri-City Christian Academy. So we always tried to do whatever we could to get traffic through our school. That's a positive thing. Now, it sometimes means extra work, right? It sometimes means you got to move this or move that, or think about what rooms are going to be locked or what rooms are going to be open, and how you're going to close this off, and what parts of the school they have access to. It's not always easy, but it is so, to me, awesome whenever I get traffic at my school. And it doesn't even have to be a school event, right? It might be an evangelistic series that the church wants to hold at the school. It might be Pathfinders coming in and using your facilities. Whatever it is, if I can get traffic at my school, that's a good day. Not everybody feels that way. I've known some administrators, I've known some teachers that when an event is being held at the school, it's a bad day for them. And they look at the negative. And I just want to encourage you, get traffic at your school any way that you can. And so this is the cake of marketing. The icing are the logos, the branding. That's needs to happen, and that's good stuff. But if you get a good program together with positive, cheerful, happy staff who are professional when they deal with people, professional when they deal with the constituents, are involved in their churches, your church, your school is going to grow, and you're going to change the perception of your school. By the way, I guess that's my thing. No? Oh, I didn't know if that was my I'm done buzzer. We got one more thing. You should know this. It's really easy to negatively kill your school. It seems like that's so easy to do, and it happens so fast. But when you come into a school that has had a bad reputation, it takes time to turn that ship around. It doesn't happen in a year. It usually takes a little longer than that. It's a longer plan and a longer timing. There were people at the Tri-City when we were there, and I would visit with them, and they would say, yeah, that school, this and this happens, and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, really? I'm the principal there. I've never seen that. When did that happen? Well, I think it was 1973 when I was like, none of those staff were there, first off. And even so it takes time to overcome some of those negative perceptions. Just know that. But like Nehemiah, you've got to be on the wall. And when you set your mind to work on the wall, you can't come down, right? And you put your mind to the plow and you start plowing. And in time, things will turn around and things will change. Any questions?
There's a suggestion as well. You could actually have like international days,
Oh, yes.
Classroom, and that'll draw parents and other.
Yes. And what's really awesome, some schools have done those international food fairs. Yeah, that draws, if you feed them, they will come. They will come if you feed them. All right. Thank you.